Hello, my name is Peter DL. I work for SUSE in the UK, and I'm here today with some of my colleagues from Fujitsu to talk around their Cloud Native Service Delivery Platform, or CNSDP. So this session is going to be a mixture of Q&A and a technical demonstration, and we'll sort of move on to that very quickly. So the first question I'd like to ask is to Sanjeev Kamboj, who is Head of Pre-Sales and Sales for Applications and Multi-Cloud Services at Fujitsu Northwestern Europe. Sanjeev, can I ask what you know about the partnership between SUSE and Fujitsu?
So Fujitsu has a very strong relationship with both SUSE and now with Rancher, and this is prior to the acquisition of Rancher by SUSE. In fact, Fujitsu's relationship actually stretches back over 20 years with SUSE. We've gone to market together and we've enjoyed joint customer propositions and winning a number of joint customers. We're really looking to extend that in a much more global context since the acquisition of Rancher. We're also very proud to announce that we have more certified and trained people around the Rancher technology than any other partner in EMEA. We also want to offer our customer base easy access and routes to market, both Fujitsu technology and Rancher and SUSE. So we offer both OEM, resell, and MSP models, and really making that a flexible model in terms of our go-to-market strategy.
Thanks, Sanjeev, for that context on the SUSE and Fujitsu partnership. So, moving around to cloud native services, what can you tell me about Fujitsu's offerings in this field and the value that it's bringing to customers?
Before we get into the CNSDP technology, let's just take a look at the market opportunity that presents us at a macro level view. Through various discussions with the analysts such as Gartner and IDC, we estimate that about 75% of the organizations that we've been speaking to will be running production workloads of Kubernetes by 2022, which is pretty phenomenal actually. If we look at the actual compound annual growth figures highlighted here in green, we can see a very steady uptake such that by 2024, we estimate the market to grow by 22%, which is once again pretty phenomenal. So a huge market actually out there and real increase in velocity of the uptake of Kubernetes in production. So what is causing all this increased customer activity? Well, enterprises are really eager to invest in cloud native and infrastructure type technologies to really increase their software velocity. So this is not only the development cycle, but it's also the deployment cycle. Developers want to develop in an agile context. They want applications to be able to scale and become declarative and become resilient. And that's ultimately reducing technical debt. But Kubernetes doesn't just only work on-premise in terms of private cloud, also public cloud instances, but also at the edge now with the rollout of 5G, and also really adopting and having prevalent use in the Internet of Things. And it's become the standard bearer really for container orchestration and management solutions. In fact, it's absolutely deployed in all of the public cloud environments. So GKE, Elastic Kubernetes Service for AWS, and Azure Kubernetes Service as well for Microsoft. So CNSDP, our cloud native software development platform, is both tooling and technology where Fujitsu has bought the best in class of its assets, coupled with its partner technologies, and also in a very plug and play modular type environment. We can really take that organization on a journey, really adopting cloud native services to really enhance and deploy true world-class, enterprise-class digital transformation. And we take into context both agility, culture, and the ability of those organizations to really help them on their transformation pathways. But Kubernetes is potentially not easy, and there are some challenges in adoption for Kubernetes. And part of the CNSDP philosophy was that we wanted to take into context security and compliance. We also wanted to give long-term time to value in terms of the skills required, the learning curve. We wanted to unpack and take away some of this complexity, and also really maintain that cost balance, that business equation that we're all trying to solve here. And by doing such, we really co-create value with our customer base.
So I'm now going to sort of drill down a little bit further into Fujitsu's Cloud Native Service Delivery Platform, CNSDP. And I want to understand how it's different from other cloud vendors' application offerings. And for that, I'm going to ask Neeraj Arora. Neeraj is a cloud architect specializing in cloud technologies for Fujitsu. Neeraj.
Thanks, Peter, for an excellent question. As we all know, customers have been building their application services platform on-premise as well as in the cloud for years. And frankly speaking, it has served its purpose. But increasingly, customers are having a different expectations from their application environments. With hybrid multi-cloud becoming mainstream, and as Sanjeev said, cloud-native architectures and containerization is an increasing focus for our customers. All this means customers have different expectations. They want to avoid a cloud lock-in. And this is exactly the core proposition of our CNSDP solution, a cloud-native software delivery platform. As you can see, with the CNSDP solution, customers get an end-to-end, fully automated, cloud-agnostic software delivery environment, which helps them to build DevOps and DevSecOps based delivery practices. With an integrated security and multi-cloud control plane, customers avoid cloud lock-in, at the same time get access to ready-to-use platform. What that means is their developers and operators don't have to spend time in integration and administration of software components, giving them faster, efficient software delivery practices. Peter, you asked about the different software components which we have in our solution. So Fujitsu have integrated and validated almost 30 different software components as a part of the CNSDP solution. These CNSDP solution is available in two different models, a base model and an extended model. And both the models can be deployed in any Kubernetes distribution running on the cloud. The base model is primarily an OSS stack, while an extended model is a combination of OSS and ISV solution, giving customers the benefit of both worlds. Peter, you also asked the question about what's the main difference between CNSDP and a managed Kubernetes environment from cloud vendors. As you can see, a managed Kubernetes is just one component of the overall solution. Customers still have to think about security, more importantly, evergreening of the different software solutions. The end-to-end service management becomes a critical factor for customers to get the best value from their application services environment. And this is where Fujitsu CNSDP solution with its managed services offering is different from the cloud vendors. Finally, talking about the different key components, as the CNSDP solution is very tightly aligned to Kubernetes native services delivery, the core components of our CNSDP solution cover Kubernetes services like cloud native storage, networking, service mesh, as well as container databases, so that the customers can use the platform for stateful applications as well. This is in addition to the core components of CI/CD as a DevOps tools management, as well as operations management, including application performance, so that the developers have access to all the tools they need to be effective in their job. In summary, CNSDP is essentially both a DIY solution for customers, where they can take this validated and integrated software solution to build their software delivery environment and manage it and use it themselves, or they can take it as a managed service offering from Fujitsu, giving them peace of mind and helping them implement faster, efficient software delivery practices. Thanks once again for the question, and I hope I have answered your question. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks again, Neeraj. Could we learn a little bit more about the architecture of CNSDP, please? And particularly, given the audience that we have, I'm sure they'll want to know about how this influences the developer experience. Sai, who's one of the technical architects of Fujitsu, could I ask you to give us an overview, please?
So to answer this question, I would like to do a demo of the CNSTP architecture by showing the developer view, operations view, and the Rancher Service Manager integration. So these are the different personas who will be interacting with the CNSTP platform. So they see the platform and use the platform from different perspectives. So as a developer, I will be making changes to my source code and I expect a feedback. So as in when I check in my source code, a pipeline will get automatically executed. And so usually a pipeline consists of multiple stages, and within each stage you have a certain number of activities. So this is how a typical pipeline will look like. And each of the stages will produce a certain feedback. And at this stage, you will see about your voices composition, voices vulnerabilities, and also you will see information about your unit test results. And within the next stage, you're going to see about your application code quality. So you want to see how your code with respect to your quality gates, policies, and settings. And then in the next stage, you're going to build the image and you're going to scan the image with respect to the CVE vulnerabilities. So finally, you're going to deploy the image to your runtime. So there are some certain policies in place wherein you can define when to reject an image to go to deployment. Let's say, for example, an image is having critical vulnerabilities. You obviously don't want to deploy that into your runtime. Or when, let's say, your image at runtime or image at the time of deployment is having a different footprint than the image at the build time. So it means the image is compromised. So you obviously don't want to take that compromised image to your production. So as a developer, I could see the logs, of each and every tools within the pipeline log files. But then if you wanted to have a detailed information of these things, you navigate to the pipeline log file, and from there you can navigate to the respective tools with the same login. So let's say your application is fine and it is deployed. Now the operations team want to monitor the system for any sudden spikes in performance with respect to the new code changes. So we have different monitoring tools in place in the platform to monitor the application, to monitor the clusters, and they provide different health metrics, and also they create certain alerts. And another aspect of the operations management is the application management with respect to backups and restore. So typical, in our typical scenario, we will be having multiple applications, multiple projects, and then they are managed under multiple clusters. So this is how it looks like. So at the top we have Rancher. Below to that we have the CNSTP or the application clusters, and below to that you have multiple projects and applications deployed as microservices. So this is there are multiple clusters registered into the Rancher, and CNSTP's governance and control is enhanced using the Rancher. So we use Rancher policies, Rancher RBAC to manage access to these clusters. And coming to the different models that we have two different models, base and extended. So each of these, in terms of functionalities, have the same common control plane, or they have the same kind of tool set with respect to the development, security, or monitoring aspects of this. But the primary difference is being the base model is more of OSS centric, and the extended model is a mix of both OSS and ISV tools.
Sai, thanks for that informative demo. It's really good to see CNSDP working in action. It's also really good to see that this toolset has been designed for use not only by developers, but also by operations teams and release teams, because we're very conscious that in order for a tool to be used, it has to have the right tools for different sets of users. Now, that does raise the question around complexity of tool sets. So, Neeraj, can I switch back to you and ask you what the tool set around CNSDP means?
Thanks, Peter. As I mentioned before, the CNSDP software solution includes almost 30 software components which have been integrated and validated by Fujitsu. The software components cover the full spectrum from development management to runtime management to operations management. This includes both OSS and ISV solutions, as you can see. With Fujitsu commitment to OSS, just like Rancher SUSE, the CNSDP model, base model integrates a number of OSS tools such as GitLab, SonarQube, Helm, and Harbor for development management, Trivi and Falco for security management, and Service Mesh for application integration. For the logging and monitoring, the CNSDP solution uses the traditional open source tools such as GapStack, which is Grafana, Alert Manager, and Prometheus. And for logging, it uses the EFK stack, which is Elasticsearch and Kibana. From the ISV perspective, what we have integrated in the CNSDP extended model is Dynatrace for application performance monitoring and logging capabilities. We have used Aqua for the complete end-to-end security management. From a Kubernetes distribution perspective, we have validated CNSDP solutions with AKS, EKS, OpenShift for on-premise and in the cloud management, and recently we validated with Rancher multi-cluster, multi-Kubernetes management platform, which is a great news because it allows us to simplify our multi-cloud Kubernetes management, runtime management environment. For your second question, the managed services piece covers various activities such as onboarding of applications, operations management, license management of ISV's solutions, evergreening of all the software components, and a complete end-to-end IT service management. From the end-to-end service delivery perspective, it covers the infrastructure management, Kubernetes management, security management, and DevOps toolset management, providing a complete managed software delivery platform, making Fujitsu a partner for accelerating your cloud-native journey.
Neeraj, thanks for clarifying the various options available to customers. It seems very flexible and customizable, which is exactly what is required from customers today. Question for Sai: how do you foresee the CNSDP system being used in application design by customers?
Thank you, Peter, for the question. First of all, we created this reference architecture that uses a right mix of OSS and ISV components. And these components were further classified into development, operations, monitoring, and security. So the multi-cloud control plane component, which is there in the CNSTP reference architecture, that supports the multi-cloud deployments onto any cloud-native Kubernetes distributions. So with the Rancher Service Manager and the CNSTP control plane, we can help customers to build a next-generation software delivery practices that could span across multi-cloud with centralized governance and control. Secondly, the platform also addresses the customers with the vendor or cloud lock-in issues. So customers can very easily migrate an application along with its data from one cloud to the another cloud or to the on-premise. I will do a simple demonstration in which I take two clusters, one on the AKS, the other on the EKS, and will show you how simple it is to migrate the applications from the source cluster to the destination cluster using the CNSTP platform. So, so the two clusters that I have are deployed into their respective virtual network and VPC, and both the clusters were deployed behind their private VPN endpoint. So, and the application that we're trying to migrate across is a multi-tier Java-based web application, and the application uses FEP as its database. So FEP stands for Fujitsu Enterprise Postgres, which is another ISV from Fujitsu, and it is an operator-based setup with level 3 certified on the OpenShift platform. So let's now start the migration. So this is my source cluster, and you are familiar with the Kubernetes environment. So the applications usually be organized into their respective project or the namespace. So on my source cluster, and this is where my application is present, and this is what I will migrate to my destination cluster. And at the end of the migration, what I am going to see is my application on the destination cluster, and I should be able to access the application. So before you actually start the migration, so there are some setup that required to be done, and let's say the clusters were behind their private VPN endpoints. So we need to have established connection between the VMs of these two source and destination clusters. So you need to set up a VPN tunnel. Once that is done, you need to set up a cluster pair before you initiate any migration. So we did those two activities, and the migration is basically a command line based. So to make things simple for the users, so we have created a pipeline in which you need to input your project specific or the application specific namespaces. And once you trigger the pipeline, it will initiate the migration and it will migrate the application along with its data. So also the pipeline will take care of the patching your ingress. So this is how my pipeline will look like. And this is the application endpoint where I will try to access the application after the end of the migration. So what I will do now is I'll try to trigger the pipeline, select the respective branch. So now the migration that we're trying to do is the cloud to cloud migration, migrating an application from the EKS cluster to the AKS cluster. So we can similarly do it from cloud to on-premise or on-prem to on-prem. But in case of you do cloud to cloud, you need to create a cloud drive. So basically the migration is a two-step process. First, it will take the data from the source cluster to the object store, and in the second step, it takes the data from the object store and import on the destination cluster. So the migration gets, I think, is initiated. Let us now see the migration initiate status. So the migration was already initiated and it completed in few seconds. So these are the other migrations that were completed, and as you can see, the volumes were migrated and the resources were migrated, and this is the status of the respective migrations. So once the migration gets completed, at the end of it, you should be able to access the application in the respective endpoint. So this is my application endpoint, and this is where my application will come up. So sometimes it takes a bit of time so that your pods need to come up, and then you will be able to access the application with the respect to ingress endpoint. So what we did is a one-time migration. So you have an application on one cloud, you migrated that application to the destination cluster. So what we can also do, and what CNSTP also supports, is the DR setup. So let's say you wanted to have an active cluster and a standby cluster, and you would like to have some kind of synchronization. So you could do that. So basically, this is two different models. In the first model, is where you deploy 2 clusters within the same data center. And in the second case, so you will be deploying 2 different clusters in 2 different data centers across the regions, and you will set up the synchronization. So in the first case, what you set up is the synchronous replication, and in the second case, you set up the asynchronous replication. Thank you.
Sai, thank you for that. That was highly impressive. So, just to clarify, you've moved from one flavor of Kubernetes to another with no code change required. And I think this is a really key capability of agility and flexibility that our customers are certainly looking for, and is one of the main reasons that people instigate containers and Kubernetes in the first place. So, as we're coming to the end of this session, a final question for Sanjeev, if I may. Sanjeev, what would you like customers to take away from today's session?
So let's take a look at some of the benefits of CNSDP. As a pre-integrated stack, we want to be able to reduce deployment time and really get developers on with the task of developing and really saving months in that ramp up and deployment time. We also want developers to be efficient, so really only use the tools and technologies that they use and leverage our global MSP discounts and structures that we have with our global partners, and really only pay for the technology that you use on a flexible IaaS pay-as-you-grow model. But also, CNSDP has governance, risk, and control built in, using verified tools and configuration stacks. And we really truly believe that CNSDP is the foundation for co-creation. I truly believe that co-created business models with partners, with enterprises and organizations will be the dominant force going forward. So please join us in shaping our service with you together. Our platform is really designed to be fully flexible, really open to your ideas, and reliable and to support your business needs, ready to shape tomorrow with you. Thank you.